Welcome back to my channel, besties. This is a special episode for the strict police officer and his sassy, beautiful husband. Lots of you asked me to do a special episode. If you did not watch the first part, please go watch it first, then come back for this special episode. Remember, it is a fan fiction, boy-ex-boy story. I hope you enjoy it. It had been 2 months since Jungkook and Taehyung returned from their magical honeymoon across Europe. Their once fragile marriage now felt warm, real, and deeply rooted in love. Mornings began with shared coffee and sleepy kisses. Evenings ended with laughter under the covers or lazy cuddling in front of old movies. Jungkook had become softer, Taehyung calmer. It was as if the honeymoon had melted all the bitterness that once stood between them. Time skip, now Jungkook had to start his work again in the station, while Taehyung also went back to college. It is now his final year before graduation. He saw Jimin waiting for him by the entrance of the university. Jimin saw how Jungkook was dropping Taehyung off to college. He went outside the car, opening the door for his husband, then kissing him on his forehead in such a loving way. Jimin was so happy for them. They met and the besties hugged each other and went inside the classroom. They did not want to be late on their first day. The campus was unusually buzzing that morning. Students whispering, crowding near windows and doorways. The buzz wasn't about a scandal this time. It was about the arrival of Professor Bae Miho. He entered the art building dressed in a dark navy coat over a fitted black turtleneck. Briefcase in one hand, an air of casual confidence surrounding him like an expensive cologne. He walked into the classroom, pausing to remove his gloves slowly, his sharp gaze roaming across the students seated in their usual places. And that's when he saw Taehyung. In the middle row, head down, sketching absent-mindedly on his tablet, unaware of the attention falling on him like sunlight through a glass window. Professor Miho tilted his head slightly. There was a flicker in his eyes. Interest, intrigue, hunger. He smiled faintly to himself before setting his things down and addressing the class. Good morning. I'm Professor Bae Miho. I'll be leading this semester's master series in contemporary emotional form and theory. From the first class, Miho's attention wandered again and again to Taehyung, watching how his fingers moved with confidence, how his brows furrowed in concentration. Taehyung, unaware, was just being himself, sarcastic at times, focused, his energy unpredictable, bright, then calm, then frustratingly magnetic. After class, while the students began filing out, Miho spoke. Kim Taehyung, stay back for a moment. Taehyung blinked. Me? You used crimson to shade loneliness, Miho said, stepping closer to his easel. Most people use blue. That's rare. Come show me. Taehyung walked back, confused, pointing. I just thought red felt heavier than blue. It wasn't deep sadness. More like quiet screaming. Miho smiled. Exactly. You don't follow the rules. Taehyung chuckled. I've heard that before. It became routine. Miho began keeping Taehyung behind after class. Your brush technique needs more restraint. Stay back. We'll work on it. You missed a powerful metaphor in this piece. Come to my office. Let's break it down. You're not pushing yourself, Taehyung. Not for a mind like yours. Each time, Taehyung would sigh and agree, half flattered, half annoyed. He didn't read too much into it. Not at first. But he also didn't tell Jungkook. Jungkook started checking on Taehyung after shifts. He would park across the campus, bringing snacks, waiting in the cafe nearby, or quietly entering the back of the classroom. Once, he came early and saw Miho behind Taehyung, their heads too close as Miho adjusted Taehyung's brush grip, hand lingering a beat too long. Another time, He watched Miho place his hand on Taehyung's lower back as he leaned in to look at a canvas. It made Jungkook's blood burn, but he said nothing. I trust him now. I promised I'd never accuse again. So he swallowed the pain. Again and again. Even when he saw the messages Taehyung kept responding to late at night. Sometimes smiling, sometimes typing and deleting. They weren't flirtatious, but Jungkook could feel the shift. Taehyung wasn't doing anything wrong, but he was still hiding something. And that hurt worse than anything. It happened on a rainy afternoon. Jungkook finished work early and came to campus, hoping to surprise Taehyung and walk him home. But as he turned a corner near the art hall, he heard voices. Miho's voice, echoing down the hallway. I think we both know there's something between us, the professor murmured. Jungkook stopped cold, ducking behind a corner. Taehyung's voice was quiet. Professor, I think you've misunderstood. But Miho stepped closer. You don't look at me like that by accident, Miho said. Don't act innocent. You keep coming back. I come back because it's class, Taehyung answered, voice rising slightly. And I'm married. That doesn't stop desire. Then Jungkook heard footsteps. His heartbeat thundered. He crept toward the corridor, peering through the cracked bathroom door at the end of the hallway. Inside, Miho had followed Taehyung into the private staff restroom, standing dangerously close. And then, he reached out and brushed Taehyung's hair back from his forehead, fingers grazing his cheek. Taehyung froze. Don't. Jungkook saw red. He clenched his fists, shaking. But instead of barging in, he turned and slammed his fist into the hallway mirror nearby. Glass shattered, raining across the tiles. Everyone nearby turned to see Jungkook storming down the hallway, eyes burning, knuckles bleeding. Taehyung came running out moments later, hearing the commotion, heart sinking when he saw the splintered mirror, the bloody trail, the stunned faces. Where did he go? He asked a student breathlessly. He took off, down the north path. Taehyung's heart raced. He'd been lying by omission, avoiding difficult conversations, thinking he was protecting Jungkook from unnecessary worry, but it had only made things worse. And now, what if it was too late to fix it? He took off running, into the rain, calling Jungkook's name like a lifeline. It wasn't supposed to happen again. Jungkook had promised himself he wouldn't jump to conclusions. Not like he did in the early months of their marriage. Not like he did when he thought Taehyung was just another spoiled, reckless boy looking for attention. Not after everything they'd survived. Not after he almost lost Taehyung in that crash. Flashback. 1 month earlier, Jungkook had come straight from the precinct. He was tired, still dressed in uniform, but he felt lighter when he saw the lights on in Taehyung's art building. He didn't go in at first. He stayed outside, leaning on the hood of his police car, watching the window glow where Taehyung was still sketching. He was proud of him, of the way he worked harder now, of the way he chased passion instead of running from responsibility. That was the man Jungkook had fallen for. But then, a figure stepped into the light. Professor Bae Miho. He leaned over Taehyung, looking at the sketch, lips moving closely beside Taehyung's ear. Jungkook's jaw clenched. At first, he tried to reason. Maybe it's just teaching. Maybe that's how artists critique work. But then it happened again. The next visit. And the next. And every time Jungkook saw Miho closer, touching his back, smiling too easily, holding Taehyung's gaze too long, he started visiting more frequently, telling himself it was just to drop off snacks. But really he was checking. He hated that, He hated that he was turning into the version of himself that Taehyung used to resent. So he stayed silent. The first time he saw the messages, it was by accident. Taehyung had left his phone unlocked on the bed while getting ready for class. The name, Professor Miho Artist Palette. The message, that sketch today, devastating in the most beautiful way. You breathe pain into color. I hope your husband tells you that. Jungkook didn't confront him. He just folded. He turned off the phone screen and pretended he hadn't seen anything. Taehyung came out moments later, smiling like nothing was wrong. Should I wear the gray coat or the navy one? Jungkook had answered numbly. Gray. Pretending to be okay. He'd kissed Taehyung goodnight while wondering why his husband seemed distant. He'd hold him under the covers while Taehyung stared at the ceiling, lost in thoughts Jungkook no longer shared. He'd sit across the table, smiling softly while Taehyung texted someone beneath the surface. Chipped away at him. Quietly. He never said anything. Because he wanted to trust. Because if he said it, he feared it would mean he had failed again. But then came the corridor. Jungkook had followed Taehyung's laughter down the hallway. He didn't mean to eavesdrop. But when he heard Miho's voice murmuring suggestively, he felt the sharp stab of betrayal. Cold, familiar, and cruel. And when he saw Miho touching Taehyung's cheek, whispering in the shadow of the bathroom door, the world tipped sideways. Jungkook didn't confront them. He didn't scream or fight or drag Miho out by the collar. Instead, he walked to the mirror down the hall, stared at the reflection of himself. Red eyes, trembling hands, and punched straight through the glass. The pain didn't even register at first. Only the noise, the sound of something breaking outside of him to match what was cracking inside. End of flashback. Present moment. Now, Jungkook stood in the campus courtyard. Rain pouring down. His right hand bleeding and curled around a crumpled paper towel. Blood mixed with water on his sleeve. He leaned against the brick wall, staring at nothing. Empty. He wanted to scream. Not because of Miho. Not because of the disgusting attempt. But because he knew Taehyung had been keeping it from him. You knew. You saw it. You felt it. And you still let it grow. His chest ached. It wasn't jealousy. It was the fear that history was repeating itself. That no matter how hard he tried, he was still the man who wasn't enough. Still the husband who couldn't be fully trusted with Taehyung's heart. Footsteps. Jungkook looked up. And there he was. Taehyung. Soaked in the rain, eyes wild and terrified. He stopped several feet away, chest rising and falling. Jungkook. But Jungkook turned away, pressing his back to the wall. I don't want to hear it right now. I didn't let it happen, Taehyung pleaded. I didn't let him touch me. I didn't do anything. But you didn't tell me, Jungkook whispered, voice breaking. You let me think I was crazy. You let me sit with it alone. Taehyung's lips trembled. I was scared you'd react like the old you. I thought I was protecting you. No, Jungkook's eyes met his. You were protecting yourself. Taehyung moved forward. Please don't walk away from me. Not now. Jungkook turned his face away again. I don't know if I can hear you say sorry when you didn't trust me with the truth. I never wanted him, Taehyung said softly. I only wanted you. Silence. Rain. Tears. Taehyung stepped closer, gently taking Jungkook's bloody hand in his own, flinching at the sight of glass embedded in the skin. Rain soaked the courtyard, but neither of them moved for several moments. Jungkook's bloody hand slipped from Taehyung's trembling fingers. Then, without a word, He turned and walked away. Jungkook, Taehyung whispered brokenly. Please. But the only sound that answered him was the rain and the distant growl of Jungkook's car engine. By the time he looked up, the headlights had vanished through the gates. Taehyung stayed up all night. The first night, he sat in their bedroom with his phone clutched to his chest. He called. Again. And again. No answer. He texted until his thumbs ached. I'm sorry. I love you. Please come home. You don't have to forgive me. Just let me see you. The second day he went to the police station. Is Officer John in? He asked quietly. The desk sergeant frowned. He took time off. Left his badge and keys here. Do you know where he went? No clue, sir. Sorry. Taehyung left the station. Shoulders slumped. Fingers trembling. On the third morning, Taehyung forced himself back to campus. His eyes were swollen, rimmed red. His steps were heavy. His soul felt cracked in half. He was sitting silently in the art studio when the door creaked open. Taehyung, came that familiar velvet voice. Taehyung didn't even look up. Miho stepped inside. I heard you've been distant. I'm sorry if I... Shut up. Miho blinked. Taehyung finally lifted his eyes, dead cold and furious. If you come near me again, I will go straight to the dean, he said. And every student you've ever lingered too close to. I'll make sure no university ever hires you again. Miho paled, backing a step. Taehyung stood, chest heaving. I was stupid to stay quiet, but I won't stay quiet now. I don't care how charming you think you are. You almost ruined my marriage. Miho tried to speak, but nothing came out. Days later, he submitted a formal request for transfer. That night, Jungkook returned home. He entered without a word, not even glancing at Taehyung, who was waiting in the living room. Jungkook, I'm staying in the guest room. The door closed with a finality that cracked Taehyung open again. He sat on the floor outside the door with a tray of food, whispering, Please eat something. Just a little. There was no reply. The tray sat untouched the next morning. Taehyung finally called Jimin. His voice was raw. Please. I think I broke him. Jimin didn't even hang up before grabbing his jacket. That night, Jimin stood outside the guest room door, arms crossed. Hyung, open the door. Nothing. I know you're hurting, but so is he. Still nothing. Do you want him to sit outside your door for the rest of the year? Do you want to lose the man who never stopped loving you? Even when you were cold and guarded. The lock clicked. The door opened. Jungkook looked exhausted. Eyes dark, cheeks sunken, lips pale. He lied to me, Jungkook said quietly. Jimin softened. He didn't lie. He didn't know how to tell you something he was ashamed of. Knew how you'd feel. And he was scared. Jungkook stared past him. Jimin stepped aside. Talk to him. You both deserve at least that. Later that night, Jungkook walked into the bedroom slowly. Taehyung was curled up on the window seat, knees to chest. He looked up, startled. Koo! Jungkook said nothing for a moment. He just stood there, then slowly sat across from him on the edge of the bed. The silence stretched. I wasn't enough, Jungkook finally said, voice barely above a whisper. That's how it felt. Taehyung's heart broke all over again. You were too much, he whispered, voice trembling. You were everything. That's why I didn't want to break you again with my carelessness. I saw the way he looked at you, Jungkook continued, eyes dull. And I hated it. I hated that he was close. I hated that I couldn't say anything without seeming like the jealous husband I used to be. Taehyung crawled across the bed slowly, sitting in front of him. I was wrong. I should have told you. I should have made it clear to him. I didn't cheat, Jungkook, but I hurt you. Jungkook's lips parted, and his voice cracked. You're the only person I ever let all the way in, and when you kept those messages from me, it felt like I was on the outside again. I know, Taehyung whispered, reaching for his hand slowly. And I want you to let me back in, even if it takes time. Jungkook looked down at their fingers. The cuts from the mirror were healing, but not fully. Neither were they. He exhaled shakily, eyes glassy. Do you still love me? Taehyung's voice broke. More than anything I've ever known. Jungkook nodded, eyes closing. He leaned forward, forehead pressing against Taehyung's. I want to fix it, but I need you to fight with me this time. Not alone. Not behind my back. I will, Taehyung whispered. Together. And for the first time in days they held each other. No kisses. No rushed apologies. Just two hearts trying to beat in rhythm again. Taehyung had spent the last 2 weeks trying to reach Jungkook in little ways. Small notes in his lunchbox, a cup of hot tea waiting by the door, a favorite song playing softly in the background as Jungkook walked in after a long shift. Jungkook had warmed slightly. His walls weren't up as high anymore, but there was still a distance between them, a hesitance in his kisses, a quiet in his eyes. So Taehyung decided to be bold. No more halfway love. With the help of Jimin and a well-placed bribe to one of Jungkook's colleagues at the precinct, Taehyung got exactly what he needed. Jungkook received a sudden call about a sting operation at a luxury hotel uptown. A known criminal suspected of hiding out in room 809. Go alone, the dispatcher instructed. Keep it quiet. You'll find what you need in the room. Jungkook frowned but obeyed, his badge tucked under his coat as he stepped out of the car. The hotel was unusually elegant. Crystal chandeliers, velvet carpets, romantic music humming low from the lobby speakers. He rode the elevator with tense shoulders, gun holstered at his hip, mind locked into work mode. Room 809. He knocked once. No answer. Then the door creaked open. The room was dimly lit in gold. Rose petals trailed the floor. Soft jazz played in the background. And standing near the bed was Taehyung, wearing black silk and a half-smile. Surprise! Taehyung whispered, voice smooth and daring. Jungkook's eyes widened. Tae, what the hell? Put your badge away, officer, Taehyung said, stepping closer. Tonight you're not on duty. Jungkook's jaw clenched. You faked a mission call? I had help, Taehyung said. And you've been emotionally unavailable. Consider this an intervention. Or seduction. Jungkook stared at him, caught between scolding and surrendering. Taehyung stepped forward, hands gently touching Jungkook's chest. You've been pushing me away. Let me pull you back in. Jungkook didn't speak. He just crushed their lips together in a kiss so full of frustration and longing that Taehyung gasped against his mouth. Clothes were lost piece by piece, urgency growing between every breathless kiss. They fell onto the bed, Jungkook hovering above him, staring down with fire in his gaze. You set me up, he growled softly. Taehyung arched up to kiss his neck. You never gave me a chance to make it right, so I created one. Jungkook leaned closer, lips brushing Taehyung's ear. You're dangerous, and you're in love with me, Taehyung whispered, breath hitching. I hate how much I missed you. Then prove it. Jungkook captured his lips again. Slower this time, more deliberate. Each kiss dragged out like an unspoken apology. Each touch worship. You're mine, he murmured, fingers tracing Taehyung's waist. Taehyung's eyes fluttered. Only yours. Look at me, Jungkook said suddenly, voice thick with emotion. I want to see you. Every time I touch you. Every reaction. Every breath. Taehyung locked eyes with him, whispering, Then don't look away either. Not tonight. Not ever again. The hours passed like a dream. Jungkook kissed every inch of Taehyung's skin like it was the first time. Like it was a privilege. Taehyung whispered soft words between gasps, fingers gripping Jungkook's hair. Lips brushed sensitive spots only he knew. They didn't just make love. They rediscovered it. There was laughter in the middle when Taehyung teased him for being breathless. There were tears when Jungkook finally whispered, I was so scared of losing you again. And Taehyung replied, You don't have to chase me anymore. I'm not going anywhere. They fell asleep tangled in each other's arms, the scent of roses and the echo of forgiveness lingering in the air. And in the dark, Jungkook kissed his temple one last time and whispered, My favorite mission yet.